This is the EVP Podcast. It's another episode of the EVP Podcast, which stands for Energy, Visions, and the Paranormal. However, this episode, we do have some EVPs of electronic voice phenomenon. Anyway, I'm DVO.
I'm Beaker.
And I'm Ghosty.
We're going back to West Virginia, West Virginia.
What? No.
Not West Virginia. Virginia
What?
City.
Virginia City.
We went to West Virginia last week.
Nevada.
Sorry,
Nevada.
last week went to West Virginia. This week, Virginia City. We're going back
To the West Coast.
Yes.
Take me back. I want to go there.
We're going
To
west.
Nevada.
We're going west of
Take me
Utah
back.
to Nevada.
But this time, we're going to the Washoe Club. Washoe.
Washoe.
What? What?
Huh?
You're going to do what now?
Washoe.
Let me give you guys a little history. Now, I'm a little conflicted with history because I heard that it was built in 1875. So I don't know if the Washoe Club opened in 1875 because I heard in 1873 there was an explosion that killed people and there were parts of people laying out in the street. So not sure the exact history, a little conflicted from what I heard. But anyway, there was we talked about it, I think, on the last time we went to Virginia City. There was a great fire. And so this was rebuilt and reopened in 1876. But the building itself is 3 stories. It had many commercial properties in there. Currently, there's nothing up on the other levels. It's just on the main floor. Right now, it's more of a museum, right? Isn't it? Just more like a museum at this point?
I think 1875 is when it got popular.
Ah, okay. And Ghosty was telling me that this was first originally black-owned. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was the Boston. It's called the Boston Club.
Ah, so maybe this opened up, maybe it was originally like 1872 or 1873, maybe as the Boston Club. And so what's the history? You were telling me a little bit of history of the black-owned businesses in Virginia City. And this is, again, the late 1800s.
Yeah, so this was during the Civil War.
Ah.
And this man, he was a freed slave, which there was others who all migrated to Nevada, heading out west towards California, and actually established business and were business owners in Virginia City. And yeah, he opened up that club, which he had more establishments opened as well. But yeah, it was all black owned, and it was all well-to-do millionaires started coming. People were becoming millionaires out there, and like there were previous millionaires coming out there, and then people turning into millionaires out there because
From
of
the
the
mining?
silver,
Yeah,
the silver
huge
rush.
mining town.
But if you think about millionaires back then, would be who the billionaires are now. So the 1%, because millionaires now are not 1% anymore.
Right.
But the billionaires of today are who would be there in Virginia City.
Aha. In fact, they had a little section called the Millionaires Club.
Yes.
That was over there because of what you were saying. But again, this is an old western mining town, so as you can imagine, there were gunfights and mining tragedies. Obviously, illnesses where we didn't have the medicine. They didn't have the medicine like we have today. Other accidents, which resulted in many deaths. And I actually have this little report that when winter seasons would come, because actually it is Nevada, but it does snow out there. So during the winter seasons, the ground would be frozen, so they really couldn't dig up grave sites. So they just kind of hung out until it was softened up to bury people. Pretty interesting. But the Washoe Club today, they do ghost tours. You can do like museum tours, but they have ghost tours 7 days a week. So you can do a 40-minute tour for $10. And you can also do an investigation. You can rent out an overnight investigation for $400 at the Washoe Club today. So that's kind of cool. So it's another place that you can actually go investigate a haunted location.
Yes.
We do need to go there. And it's not that far away.
Well, we mentioned on the last Virginia City episode, within a block, there's like 5 or 6 haunted buildings that we can just knock out.
I happen to know a guy that's been trying to get me to go there for years.
We all know a
Yes,
guy.
and we're going to talk about that guy a little later on in the episode. Because when I think of Virginia City or in the Washoe Club, I think of him. So we'll get into this. But let's talk about some of the stories, some known stories and scary haunted stories.
This is how popular this club was.
Okay.
This place was visited by Ulysses S. Grant,
Ah.
General Robert Sherman. There was an actor lecturer named Artemus Ward. There was actor Edwin Booth and a railroad magnate named Darius Ogden Mills, and like 50 other millionaires. On one podcast, I heard that Mark Twain also visited.
Yeah, Mark Twain had a, he was there
This
a lot.
was like the well-to-do place to go.
Yes.
Like, I mean, they have on their website, they have a huge list of like all these people that visited there. I'm not going to read them all because there's like 50, 60 names.
And they're all members of the Millionaires Club.
Yes.
I want to be a member.
Like, was it velvet walls?
Oh, yes, I heard.
Red velvet walls.
Yes. Yeah. So who's a story they want to share with us?
Oh, okay.
Tell us a good story.
All right, let's talk about the prospector.
Yes.
All right, let's see. All right.
All right.
This picture. Well, this picture's not come up. Okay. All right, there's one called the Old Man, and he died on the third floor about 1990, and he's got a potty mouth.
Okay.
And so he's quick to drop F-bombs on spirit boxes and on EVPs.
Nice.
So if you're there
nice.
investigating, that's usually who this guy is. And then there's a shadow man who's also been frequenting around the spiral staircase, and there's an apartment in the back on the second floor. And like one of the people, the tour guides, he sees the shadow man between 11 and midnight. Usually that's about the time he sees him. And there's also a young woman who they get EVPs from. And she's got a slight southern accent and apparently doesn't like taking other women into the building when this guy's in there. Like, she doesn't like it when he's got other women with him.
Why doesn't play so many women out hanging out with him late at night?
Loose women, you know. Let's see. And then there was the lady in blue.
But she's also around the spiral
Also
staircase.
said to be around the spiral staircase. And back in the 60s, there was a medium who was there who found the name Lena and has been calling her Lena. And don't know where she came from. I don't know. I can't find any stories of where she came from or why she's there. But people have seen her. And they've also had a spirit of an old prospector who frequents the bar. And they say that if they have like a shot of bourbon left out, it just magically disappears. And that's who they blame it on, is this old prospector. I don't know where he puts it.
He drinks it.
I'm pretty sure other people just go, is this shot just sitting here? And somebody else just shoots it, and then somebody comes back, it's gone again.
It's like you're taking my shot.
Some drunk guy's just like, I love how this ghost keeps giving me free shots. And other people are like, this ghost keeps taking shots.
The different perspectives.
Yeah. But he's also said to move the stools around. I also move stools. And that he swings the saloon doors for women when they're about to walk through. He like opens it for them.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I don't know if there's any evidence. I haven't seen any evidence of that, but that would be really great evidence.
And another thing about a little girl who's been said to be running around there. And about the little girl, I was watching this one show. It was somebody's YouTube channel, and they had a big mirror that was up above a fireplace or something, and that was moved down for some reason. And the next day, they were walking by that, and the same lady who's always on all the shows talking about the place, the redheaded lady,
yeah,
she was being interviewed by these guys, and then she was pointing out that mirror and was like, notice these little children handprints on the mirror, and pointed those out and was like, those weren't there yesterday. And but yeah, when they moved it down there, they weren't there, and there was no little kids present in the building that, you know, till they recorded that moment. So where did they come from?
Interesting. Ghost kids.
The little kids down
That's
the street.
And then did you have some other ghost stories about some stuff happening there?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
All right.
Did you want to hear them?
I do.
Oh, okay. I thought
I would
you were just
love
asking.
to hear them.
I thought he was just wanting to know if I had stories.
He just had a question. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So moving on. One of the tour guides there at the Washoe Club. Washoe Club. She mentioned that I think it was another employee or someone that was in the area. His name was Scotty.
Okay.
And he had a son, and his son was out playing with a friend in the field up in the mountains area behind Virginia City there. And he fell down. Scotty's son fell down into a mine shaft and ended up dying from his injuries. Now, from what she said, Scotty was extremely distraught about the death of his son. So he went into the third floor room at the Washoe Club, and he unalived himself with a gun. And what's interesting about this story, they were actually in that room. They call it the suicide room. And when I say they, I mean Ghost Adventures. They were doing a live EVP session in that room. And they weren't really getting anything, if I remember correctly. So they went down to their base camp area. And when they were down there, they heard footsteps walking around in that room when there was no one in the room. Like, it's just the four of them. You've got Zach, Aaron, Billy, and then their tech guy that watches the cameras. So it's just the four of them, right? They're all at their base camp watching the cameras. So they hear these footsteps. So they send Aaron up there, and on one of their electronic devices that captures like live, he opened the Ovilus up, and one of the first things it said, he's like, I heard you walking around up here. You can't walk around when we're here. And his Ovilus goes off and it says shoot, and that's the room where the guy shot himself.
Yeah.
So they made the correlation. They said it was, they think it was him.
In fact, on Ghost Adventures, there was a lot of correlations, and we're gonna get into those because they were.
We're going to talk about
Pretty
Ghost
good.
Adventures a lot on this episode.
Well, this was the place that they did their first like pilot episode.
I remember.
First
It was their
and they
third
had
episode.
Was it their third episode of their show? But
Of the
I meant
show, but yeah.
I meant their
They were doing a documentary.
documentary.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were
It
doing a
wasn't-
documentary, and that's what spawned Ghost Adventures.
exactly. So it wasn't their pilot, I guess. It was their.
But yeah, it was a documentary that got them into ghost hunting. This is the place where Billy, he was super skeptic. He didn't believe in spirits. It was their second time there back in 2009, I believe.
Yes.
They were there with a couple named Mark and Debbie Constantino. Constantino, thank you. That's important because that comes up later. But that was the first time Billy was there, and with the stuff that he saw and the EVPs that he got and what he felt, that's what turned him from a skeptic into a true believer in the paranormal, or in the ghosts anyways.
Because he had something tapping on his shoulder, and he turned around and no one was there.
And yeah, I'll tell you, the first time you get touched, like was where you
Maybe your butt squeezed.
Yeah, well,
Or cupped.
Like you remember that? Like it's pretty weird. It's
Like
a different
when your
feeling.
butt gets touched at the cemetery.
That wasn't the first time.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, it wasn't.
But you
First time
remember
you
it well.
touched
But I
at the
do remember
cemetery.
that because that was a nice butt grab. Like that was
No.
a good squeeze.
I remember the first time I had a spirit touch
cupping.
me. So I had a spirit grab my arm.
And it's such a weird feeling that, yeah, every time it happens, I'll never forget any one of those, but it is pretty nuts. So I can understand why he was like, oh shit, that was wild. Because he was a skeptic, and then having to experience that was pretty cool.
Well, before we get into Ghost Adventures and our good friend Paul Welsh, do you guys have any other stories to tell?
Oh, well, I mean, Ghost Adventures, their documentary, they captured that brick getting tossed.
So before we get into Ghost Adventures and Paranormal Veracity, any other stories you want to share?
No, not about the place, no.
All right, so I want to share with you guys, first of all, our good friend Paul Welsh, who we talked about in his YouTube channel, Paranormal Veracity. He lives in Virginia City, right? He lives in Reno?
Reno,
He's
which is
in
pretty
Reno,
close.
which is like a half hour away.
Yeah,
it's not
so
that
it's
far.
not that far. So he lives out there, and he's done a couple of investigations there. A good friend of ours, he's from Utah, a good friend of ours. And I was on it when I think of the Washoe Club, I think of him and Ghost Adventures because they've done three episodes.
Three episodes.
Three
yes.
episodes. So we'll get into that.
They started there 2009 and then 2019.
2007.
2009, 2019.
This was their third. That was their third. They've
The
been there
third one
three
was,
times.
yes. So when they started in 2004, 2009, 2019.
Oh, okay, that's what you're saying. So I want to put a link to the Paranormal Veracity. They have a playlist videos of the Washoe Clubs. We'll put a link in the description so you guys can go and check them out. They have a lot of great evidence, and the fact they did a whole documentary in that area as well. So you guys can go check it out. It's all in that playlist. But also check out Paranormal Veracity's YouTube channel. They have a lot of videos with great evidence in them. And I thought I'm gonna pick a couple EVPs from them that I really liked, and that they kind of jumped out at me. I could hear it pretty clear, the EVPs. So I'm gonna play a couple of those. But they've got great EVPs of footsteps also. A lot of other good EVPs in there. So I don't want to play all of it. I want you guys to go to their YouTube channel and check it out. But here is one. I don't know what room this is in, but you hear Paul talking, and he's just kind of saying, hey, we're about to leave. So you'll kind of hear him talking, and then you'll hear the EVP. So we'll play it a couple times, and So sorry, guys, it's going to get loud in our headphones, but for the audience, it'll sound pretty good for them.
It's almost time for us to leave.
So he's saying we're about to leave, and then you hear an EVP come through the echo box. So I'll play it again.
It's almost time for us to leave.
So you hear it a couple times, what's coming through here. So I'll tell you what they think it says. I don't know what you guys heard, but I'll tell
So
you
you
what
hear
they
the little
said
blips,
Yeah.
and it's after that, the two loud syllables at the end.
at the very end. So I'll tell you what they think it says, and then I'll play it, see if you guys hear that. So they think it says "drop dead" after Paul talks. So we'll play it again.
It's almost time for us to leave.
Drop dead.
I can hear it a lot better with the headphones.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. That's through the Echo Vox. One thing for me though, as I was listening to it, I do notice that it almost saying those two syllables a few times before. It almost sound like it's saying the same two syllables, and then at the end it's very prominent. So it's hard to tell if it's the Echo Vox doing it or if they really got an EVP, in my opinion. But at the end, it's very prominent at the end, so it sounds pretty good. What do you guys think as I say that?
Like as if it's only the word "dead" that's being said.
No, like it's saying "drop dead" 3 times. It says
Okay.
"drop dead, drop dead, drop dead." That's
I'll
kind of how I
hear
hear
the
it.
one time.
So
I only heard it the one time because the other times I
So
just
now that
hear
I said it, you guys listen for that as he's talking.
Okay.
It's almost time for us to leave.
You catch what I'm saying?
I hear it like stuttering, but
Yeah. But anyways, I thought it was a pretty good EVP.
the way the
I thought it was a
Echo
good
Vox works is it's they took the Raven from Edgar Allan Poe and chopped it up, and it just kind of blips through that.
Right. So,
So-
if it's blipping through it, it would be really coincidental if it says the same thing over and over. So
This is true.
yeah, so it was pretty good EVP. And then this one, I really like this one. Paul's asking, "Is there anything we should be afraid of?" And then you hear EVP come through. I was actually doing something else while I was listening to this, and I heard it right away. And then you hear Corey, who's with him, who's also a friend of ours. You hear Corey actually repeat it, so you might be able to hear her kind of say it after. But anyway, I'll play a couple times. Here we go.
Is there anything here we should be afraid of?
All right, so you hear that? I'll play it again.
Is there anything here we should be afraid of?
So Ghosty heard it, and he thought they said what? Grapes.
Or me, or
I think he said the grapes. Afraid of grapes.
Yeah.
But Beaker and I heard it, and Beaker heard the same thing I heard it. Beaker,
Yeah,
what do you
grape
think he
minus the G.
said? Minus the G.
Grape
yeah.
minus the G.
So they think they might be speaking to a little girl in this EVP session. So there's a whole bunch of EVPs along with this. Again, I don't want to play all of them. I want you guys to go check out their channel. But yeah, like Beaker just said, it's they think it's saying rape. So I'll play it again.
Is there anything here we should be afraid of?
And you hear Corey repeat it. So I heard it. You hear Corey repeat it, and Beaker heard the same thing. I'll play it one more time for you guys. See if you guys hear it.
Is there anything here we should be afraid of?
So it's pretty good, I think. Some pretty good EVPs that they caught. There's a bunch more, like I said, footsteps and other EVPs. So we'll put a link to their YouTube channel. You guys should check out Paranormal Veracity. Great content there. All right. The other group I think of when I think of the Washoe Club is Ghost Adventures. They've been there 3 times. And the last time was, you said 2019 was the last
I
time?
believe so, yeah. Because
And
I know for sure it was 2009 was the second time. And they said it had been like 10 years since they've been there. So
Yeah.
it's around 2019.
I think you're right. And they say this is the last time. It's a little too emotional for them. And maybe because too many times at one location not good for TV. I don't know. But
Maybe. But there's also the fact that Mark and Debbie.
yeah, let's get into let's talk about it. Let's talk about Mark and Debbie. Let's talk about their first Ghosty just mentioned one of their best evidence they ever got. So let's get into all of it because they've got some pretty good evidence in Ghost
So
Adventures.
Mark and Debbie, they lived there in Reno, I believe.
Okay, I didn't know they lived there. Okay,
Yeah, they lived in Reno, so they're not too far from the Washoe. And back in 2015, they were a part of a murder-suicide. They were found dead in Mark's apartment. They were separated, I believe.
They were getting separated.
They were getting separated, and I guess he went off the deep end a little bit, and he unalived both of them.
Yeah.
I guess there was a little bit of a standoff with the SWAT department,
there was.
and when they finally entered the home, they were both deceased. In 2009, the second time they were there, they were on Ghost Adventures. They were there with Zach and Billy and them, and like I said, that's where Billy started believing, and with working with Debbie and Mark. In that 2009 episode, you actually see in some of his evidence, they showed something that looked like a whiskey bottle floating across the room by itself.
Oh.
I'm not 100% sure that's what it was, but it's kind of what it looked like. It looked like a bottle of liquor just kind of floating across the room.
Interesting.
So that place meant a lot to Debbie and Mark, if I remember correctly. And so that's why, and they were really close with these two. And that's why this place kind of brings up some of those raw emotions.
Yeah.
No, when they first got there in the final chapter episode, the 2019 episode, they go into the little cellar area where they used to store dead bodies there at the Washoe. Wash the hoe?
Washoe. Washoe sounds grave.
Washoe. I'm sorry. Paul always called it the Washoe Club. So that's just what I knew it as, the Washoe Club.
No extra syllables.
Yeah,
no letter A's.
Wash the hoe. They had a little area where they used to keep bodies back in the day, like in the 1800s. And they were in there doing an investigation. They were talking, and all of a sudden they hear a rock hit the table behind them. And they start looking into it, and then they go back to investigating. They hear another rock hit. Mm-hmm. At one point, Aaron feels like someone... He said he felt like a bunch of pebbles hitting his head, but if you're watching the show, nothing hits his head. So, I mean, it's like what Ghosty was saying. Like, it's weird when you feel something touching your head when there's nothing there. So they go back, and they're listening to their audio they got. Do you have that EVP, or do you want me
No,
to?
I didn't. Yeah, you had it all ready.
So they're going back, and they're listening to their audio evidence, and they get this EVP right here. You kind of hear it's towards the end. You hear the little bit of a static. That's just because I took it straight from their show, and that's they play it twice. But when they're listening to it, they get all excited because they recognize the voice. They believe that this EVP.
It's a female. There's only guys.
It's
there.
a female. Yeah, it's 4 guys, and you hear a female voice. And I'll play it again. It's going to play twice here.
Okay. Right there.
Yeah, you can hear her say that one.
Yeah.
Which is what I heard too. That's what they said on the show.
They
That's
said
what I
it's
heard.
that one. That's what you hear. And they believe it's Debbie.
Yeah.
And so with Debbie and Mark, their whole thing was EVPs.
And by the time of this episode, they had been passed for 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years
So
since they passed away.
When they had them on the show the first time,
they've had them on a few
they've
times.
had them on for multiple episodes. They've their whole thing was specializing in EVPs and like collecting EVPs and.
But what they did that was different that I never seen until them was that what they call the EVP blast. So they just do some quick short sessions of recording, asking questions, pausing, and then stop. Let's play it back right this second. Where a lot of shows, they just have the recorder going, and at the end, they review all the material at the end. And the Constantinos were, first time I saw was with them, and they'd stop it right there during the investigation and start doing playback right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's been on shows or not, but I've actually seen Ben Hansen do this when I've investigated with him. He would run. I mean, when you're doing like a public ghost hunt and you're collecting EVPs, you're trying to kind of wow the people that are there that have bought tickets. Mm-hmm. So I've been in sessions with him where he'll record for like 2 or 3 minutes and then do the same thing. He'll stop, rewind it, and we'll go back and listen to it to see if we can.
Wonder where he got it from. Just kidding. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Who knows who did it
so
first,
I don't think I've seen him do it televised, but I have seen him do it in person. So I think these might be the only people that I'm aware of that have done it on television.
The first to do it on television.
The first to do it on television.
Was pretty good, and I always liked them. In fact, when I heard the news, I was like, "Oh, that sucks." I really liked when they.
And then you heard how deep that
I
drama
know,
got. Like,
I
wow.
know, it was very sad. It was
When
very
I heard
sad.
the news, I was like, "Who are these people?"
Oh really?
I had no idea. Never heard of them
Oh.
before.
No, yeah, at first I was like, stars of the Ghost Adventures, and I'm like, they're not stars. They were on like a 3 episode.
Yeah.
I
didn't
I
even-
always liked them on the show, and when I heard, I knew exactly who it.
Well, yeah,
I knew
took
exactly who it was.
when I saw their pictures, I knew, but
Yeah, I had no clue. Never heard of them. Never saw their pictures. I was just like, "Oh, that's sad."
Have you seen them? Have you seen them before though? Have you
No.
seen? Oh, you still don't know. Who
I
they
still
are?
don't know. I mean, I did a little bit of research last night,
Oh, okay.
but I'd never seen an episode they've been on, and I couldn't see the episodes that they were on. They've actually removed those first two Washoe episodes.
Yeah.
The Ghost Adventures episodes. They're not on Discovery Plus. They're not on YouTube. Like
Or the local app, like the cable app. It's not.
I didn't even see them on YouTube. Yeah.
No, so on the Wasso's website, they actually had the YouTube links for those first two episodes, and those have been removed.
Yeah.
YouTube has taken them. So I'm assuming it's Ghost Adventures have pulled those, and it might be because that couple
situation.
was on
Yeah.
both of them. So it might have been like family request or something. I have no
Probably
idea.
to remove anything that had them together, maybe. Who knows?
I don't know for sure, but they're not accessible.
But Ghosty, talk about one of the first episodes, or I guess it would probably been their second, or was it the first or second when they went there and you were talking about the one of the best evidence they got,
That was the first time
That was
in
the first one.
2004. That was their documentary.
and that was for them one of the things that like solidified like they want to keep doing this.
Right, and that's actually what propelled them into like going viral. And
Yeah. So talk about that scene.
that was
or-
like, I think, in the basement, right?
it was.
And they had just a camera set up with night vision on, and they were down there provoking, I think. And you see a brick get lifted up and tossed at them.
Yeah. From this rubble of other bricks.
Yeah, it's just like a pile of rubble, bricks that have fallen from a wall, and you just kind of see one get picked up and tossed. Nobody's around it.
Yeah, because it almost like goes straight up and very slight pause.
Yeah,
and
just
then
kinda-
gets launched.
Yep, it just kind of lifts up and sits there for like a brief fraction of a second, and then lobs over.
So it's not like someone was laying down behind this rubble and then tossed it from a laying down position. It lifted up and then
Right.
soared.
So that's kind of like was their prime evidence from that.
Before it was called
first-
viral. This
Yeah.
was their viral moment before the term viral.
Exactly, and yeah, they used that documentary, and that got them famous.
Travel Channel said we're interested.
But back then, it was hard to get good evidence like that. Now there's a ton of it.
yeah,
Well, I think the only show that they had to compete with at the time was Ghost Hunters.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and Ghost Hunters at the time was cool, but it was a snooze fest.
yes.
You watch some of those older episodes?
Yeah, and that's what I would use to
the-
fall asleep to.
the
It's like,
video-
I don't need a lullaby or anything. I just put on the old Ghost Hunters episodes, and like minutes, I'm out.
That video quality is so grainy and terrible. I'm just like, wow, I can't.
But at the time,
At the
was
time,
the
it was
best
like,
thing out
yeah,
there.
it was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Ghost Hunters was the original. It's the OG ghost hunting show.
Yeah.
You're right. But I loved when Ghost Adventures came out just because the way the evidence was shown with Ghost Adventures was right then and there. And Ghost Hunters, they made you wait till the end, and you're just like, was that good evidence?
Well,
Was it
yeah.
not?
And for me to compare, what for me, like Ghost Hunters, they were filming the crew. So the cameramen were filming the crew and their reactions. But about Ghost Adventures, is you were seeing them from their perspective of walking around with a camera in their hand.
Yeah, because
So you can kinda see
originally,
it.
how Ghost Adventures started out when they were investigating, they didn't have a camera crew.
Right.
It was literally
Self-funded.
It was literally Zach, Aaron, and
Nick.
And they were
Self-funded.
setting
They
up
walked around with their own
X's.
cameras.
and setting up still cameras with night vision.
Yeah, they didn't. They were the camera crew. There wasn't.
Yeah.
Speaking of cameras, like the first camera that they used, one of the first cameras they used, that they were filming that documentary with, where they caught some of that evidence. That actual camcorder is on display in the little museum they have there
At the Washoe
yeah.
Club. And Zach's shirt that he wore during that
And I think they
investigation.
have like Aaron's like
Visor.
with his signature.
Because
on it.
they did a little skit of him like playing cards or something like that, I think. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, so they
Again, the
have
episode's pulled, so I don't know. But I
they
think
have
that's what it was.
they have this whole little museum for the Ghost Adventures.
a section of it.
Like I said, they have that first camera, one of the cameras they actually filmed with. Obviously, they've upgraded since then, but you got to start somewhere.
Well, like the owner says, not a day goes by where people don't talk about Ghost Adventures, whether it's the staff or the guests coming in. Every day, Ghost Adventures is talked about in there. And I guess in one of the, I think on the second episode, they got EVP that they think says Zach's coming back and things like that. That they expected to come. Oh, in fact, on this latest episode, the final chapter, Zach said he was having dreams of kind of being called back there for whatever reason.
Well, should we talk about when they...
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
This is good stuff.
I've got 2 more EVPs that Billy plays that he captured on their second visit.
Oh, okay, on the second visit.
So these next 2 EVPs, they're from the 2009 episode, from when the other 2 were there. Debbie and Mark. But they're not part of these EVPs. So this is one of the first ones. It's really quick. I'm going to play it a couple times here.
All the time. All the time.
And one more time.
All the time.
I love this.
So that's one of the EVPs that Billy. Oops, sorry, don't want to go to the next one yet. That's one of the EVPs that Billy got on the second.
It's
episode.
so clear.
It's very clear with an accent.
Accent. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
All the
All
time.
the time. And as he's playing that one, they're talking about the twanginess in the voice, and Billy's like, "Oh, you want to hear twangy? Check out this EVP."
But the one he just played the all the time one. Do you remember what was going on with that one? Were they just talking?
He was just reviewing EVPs from the last one.
So they were just walking around, recording, asking questions, and then this
Probably.
comes through. They catch, and no one's with it because again, this was when they did the lockdown. So they were locked down. No one can come in and out. Pretty crystal clear EVP coming through.
Unfortunately, that episode is not available anymore, so I don't know the context. They didn't really go over the context in that episode. They just said, "This is some of the EVPs that made me a believer." So that was one of them. This is the other one. They're like, you heard the twanginess of the all the time, but hear this one. Oh, I gotta turn the sound on. Hold on. I'm prepared. Okay. Here's this one.
How do you know it's Monday? How do you know it's Monday?
How do you know?
No, it's money.
How do you know it's... Well, they think it says, "How do you know it's mine?"
Ah, okay.
Okay.
So I'll play it
again.
I'll play it again. It's gonna do... it's gonna say it, do the little static noise that they add in, and then we'll play it again.
How do you know it's Monday? How do you know it's Monday?
I mean, I hear money, but I could hear
I
it.
can hear mine or money.
The first 3 words are very clear. How do you know it's mine?
Yeah.
Or how do you know?
It's.
That's very...
How do you know
it's 4 words.
Yeah.
I can count. But to get almost a complete sentence like that,
Right.
that's actually really cool, because
Also, there's an accent there.
You can hear the accent, and which would make sense for the area. You're in a mining
Wild
city in
West.
Nevada, Wild West. It's really cool that happened.
Yes.
That they got that, and like I said, to get almost a full sentence like that, that's very rare. Usually, your EVPs are going to be like 1 or 2 words.
You're right. So it's crystal clear. These are what they call Type A, right?
Class A EVPs.
Yeah, Class A, very clear. It's almost a sentence. There's a few words. It's not like 1 or 2 little syllables.
And it's the same voice.
Right,
Yeah.
it's consistently the same voice. So, yeah, Type A EVPs. These were really good.
So let's get into the last time they were there.
And
Billy got another EVP.
He did.
And so he's getting a little emotional at this point.
He is getting emotional. He was trying to talk to
his friends.
And they, as he's sitting there by himself, kind of talking, he's like, I'd spent hours with you guys. I really miss you guys, stuff like that. And as he's doing it, you're going to hear... He captures, as he's going back and listening to the evidence, he hears...
and Billy also mentioned after the second... So it was his first, but it was the Ghost Adventure's second time going there. He went there many times, because they're from Nevada. The Ghost Adventures crew, they're from Nevada. So he went there many times on his own, by himself, on his own dime, just to take the tours, do investigations, because he kind of got really wrapped into it. But go ahead and play.
Okay, so this is... I think you hear him talk a little bit and then you'll hear the EVP towards the end.
I wasn't even asking for them. I was just with my friends.
So
It's
like
very faint, but there's a lot of syllables there.
But you can hear it's a woman's voice.
Yes, you can hear it's a woman's voice. It's very faint, but there's a lot of syllables happening.
So I'll play it one more time.
I wasn't even asking for them. I
was just with my friends.
So this one they had to enhance a little bit. The other two weren't enhanced, as far as I know.
Right.
That's just how they came across. This one, they had to boost the audio a little bit. That's why it's kind of staticky. You can hear the full syllables. And from what they believe it said, like we said, Billy's kind of emotional at this point. He's crying as he's doing this EVP session. And to them, I mean, since they said it, I can hear it as well. So they think it says Billy's just upset, okay? And again, it's a woman's voice. I mean, that part's very clear. It's a woman's voice.
Again, there's no
it's
women in
four
the building.
dudes.
Yeah. And again, Billy, he's actually crying at this moment. He's crying at this moment. So it makes sense what they think they caught.
And then later on, while they're just kind of walking through
With Billy again.
with Billy, they hear a coin get dropped right
So
behind
before
them.
that,
We've already heard 2 pebbles drop at this point.
before that, Billy's up in this ballroom by himself.
Uh-huh.
And they have one of their static cams in that room. So the three of them, the tech guy, Aaron, Zach, they're down at base camp. They're watching. Well, actually, Zach and Aaron are in the little crawl space room, the cellar room. Their tech guy's watching the cameras, and the camera in the ballroom where Billy's at by himself, it's flickering. It's flashing on and off. It's going crazy.
Having technical issues.
It's having issues. He calls Zach and Aaron in. They come and they verify that it's having issues, and then all of a sudden the camera just cuts out completely. And so Zach and Aaron go up to investigate and see what's going on. They ask if they're asking Billy if anything's happening, if he's all right. He tells them that the camera just cut out, and so they're leaving. And then
in that room actually where Aaron and Zach were,
the
the door slams on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They went into the room and the door slams behind them.
Yes.
And they were
I forgot
alone.
about that.
They were recording themselves.
Yeah, you're right.
And there was a door slam. So they were already kind of get hyped up there. Then they get the call from Jay to go check up on Billy, where the issues are having with the camera.
And then that's when that coin gets dropped.
So Billy had set up a little EVP, like a talking EVP box thing, which it's
like
kind of like an Ovilus, but
like an Ovilus,
fancier,
but better,
more high tech,
more advanced,
Yeah.
more advanced Ovilus.
So as they're leaving the room,
they hear that coin get a drop, and none of them have coins on them. So
Billy's like, I hate carrying change.
I mean,
so they
none of
grab
them
it.
have change.
They grab it and they're checking out this coin, and then other equipment start going off.
Well, so
but then they realize the coin. They think about, okay, what does the coin have on it?
the tech guy asked him what the date was,
And then it's 2015, and it happened to be the year that they died.
Mm-hmm.
So other equipment's going off in the meantime, and they go to that room where that machine is.
So they're inspecting this coin, and then they hear the thing go off, and they go running back into the room. It said communicate.
Yep.
As they're talking about this.
And it said, who you communicate?
No. So
he's got the transcripts. So let him go.
Yeah.
So they run into the room. They're like, oh my gosh, it said communicate. And they're like, it said communicate as we're talking about this brand new shiny coin.
Because it looked very shiny. Yeah.
It was brand. Yeah, it looked like it was a brand new quarter. They're talking about how new it looked, how shiny it was, and then the word fresh pops up on the screen.
Yeah.
And so after it says fresh, they're like, Zach's okay. Like, he says, he's like, who is this? Is this some kind of a message? Who is this a message to?
Yeah.
And it comes across and it says you. And he's like, all right, if this is a message to me, then who is this a message from? And it says us.
Wow.
And then they're talking a little bit more.
Well,
And Zach's like,
the way the machine said it.
it says U.S.
And so
it spells it out.
Yeah, it says U.S., but it doesn't. But it sounded funny, so I could see how Zach didn't understand what it said, and he looks over at it and it said us. He goes, "It said us."
And then Billy's like, oh my God, it said us. They're freaking out. They're like, oh my God. And then they're like, what did you do with this quarter? And it says drop. And I mean, these responses are instantaneous.
Yes.
And they were
coinciding with the
on
questions.
the dime, you would say.
Yes.
Pun intended.
Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh my God, it said drop. And they're like, that's cool. Let's go home. And this is very telling to the episode. I guess they're leaving to go clean up. And as they're in, I guess they're not cleaning up because they left their stuff in the room, but they all left the room, and you hear it go off 2 more times, and it says coins and portal.
And I guess on past episodes, they've talked about the portals. They've talked with the Constantinos. Like, if you're not catching what we're saying, they think they're communicating with the Constantinos.
Yeah, they think they're talking to
Here's
Debbie.
are they using portals to do things like,
Like
they didn't
like
die
the-
there.
like where
They
the
didn't
quarter
die-
came from.
Yeah, where the quarter came from. They also did not die in the Washoe Club.
No.
So like what
It's
you
their
talked
apartment.
you talked about earlier with the whiskey, the shots disappearing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reports of things apparating and disapparating in the building there, and this coin,
Like alcohol, like coins, like rocks.
yeah, rocks coming out of nowhere. Like they're in a room where it's pretty solid, and all of a sudden rocks are being thrown at them or just dropping out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And with this coin, so it's possible, like, if there are apparating, maybe they're throwing quarters through portals. I don't know.
And I can't remember what I saw, but there was some type of discussion with the Ghost Adventures crew and the Constantinos about portals, like as a maybe a suggestion for answers, is portals. And so when I heard that, I'm like, I think they've talked about portals like before. Is that how these things are happening, through portals? And so, like, it makes you wonder: are the Constantinos trying to give them answers to some of their questions? And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy
That is pretty cool.
how all these answers just coincided with their questions,
Yeah,
And
that was
right after the other.
They said they just, and it wasn't, there was no delay. I mean, if there was, they edited it out, but
But it
it
seemed
didn't sound
pretty-
like, it seemed like it was just constantly flowing, like the conversation was flowing. There was no pause in between the questions and the responses. It seemed like it was happening instantaneously.
And because if it was the Constantinos, they would know how to use this equipment. That's
Yeah.
maybe why it's so instantaneous.
Exactly what I was thinking when I was
They
watching
would know how
it.
to use it.
Yeah, exactly. They would. They're familiar, and they would use their energy to try
It's
to
just
manipulate.
crazy.
Yeah,
I got goosebumps. It's crazy.
yeah. When I was watching that episode, I was like, "This is cool shit."
Well,
Yeah.
I've experienced that. I mean, it is entirely possible. I was at Benton Grist Mill. Someone I was with had an Ovilus 3. I was asking if it, and I have this on video. I was asking if it was an alive person or if it was a spirit that did something. And the Ovilus, you hear it go off, and I actually zoomed in on the Ovilus so you can see the word, but I believe it said like living. And
Interesting.
it went off as I was asking the question.
You know, we were at an antique shop in called Needful Things here. I can't remember if you were with us or not.
Yeah, he
Beaker,
was.
this one. We've been there a couple times. I can't remember, but we were with a group that had an Ovilus.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, him and Brandy were
And
there.
so I was with a few people that I have no idea who they were. You guys were somewhere else. I was with these strangers to me, and we are kind of walking around. Somebody had an Ovilus. I bumped into, and it's dark. They turn off the lights off. So you just have like street lights coming into the building. And I bumped into a roller pin. Like, you know, when you're baking, you get the roller pins. I bumped into one of those things. And the guy with the Ovilus was behind me. He didn't know I did that. And I don't remember what word came up, but something popped up on the Ovilus. And he goes, I don't get it. And I just said, I just bumped into this roller pin. And it just coincided. It was odd.
No, it was the same. It was the
Maybe you
same
were there, actually.
time because like I said, they were there, and the same guy with the Ovilus was walking around. With Brandy being in there, I remember and with her, with Annie, her great grandma, Spirit. I remember it went off and it said empath, and then with her being like up ahead of us, going like, oh, I wonder if it's talking about her. And then right after that, it followed with grandma.
Ah.
I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah.
So this, I have the actual YouTube video.
Oh, what is this?
Oh, there's an ad. Hold on. Turn the volume
What
up.
video is this?
So this is the Ovilus at Benton Grist Mill.
With who?
This is me.
This is your video?
This is the
or-
story I just told.
Okay.
They started laughing, so it was definitely a live person.
Whoa.
What did it say?
Person.
Yes, it was.
What did you just say?
Live person. It said person the same time I did.
Yeah. So who's here with us?
Whoa! And I got that on video.
That was
So
Let's see. It's my
Chester. Is that you who's been talking to us? If that's you, can you light up the
person.
K2?
There we go.
So this is on my old EVP team's YouTube. I should probably find it and put it on
You had
ours.
another EVP team?
My old paranormal team.
Okay.
My old paranormal team. This is why I
Thought
was
we were
doing
the OG
investigation.
EVP team.
We are the OG EVP team. But yeah, I mean, you hearing that where as I'm talking, as I'm saying the word person, it said person on the
Yeah,
office as well.
that's pretty interesting. Like it's just making fun of you, maybe.
Maybe.
No, but I think,
or confirming that it was a living person, not a
right.
spirit.
All right, because that's another. I think these spirits, they're just repeating what you say. Just like, you
But,
hear someone
I mean,
talking,
you
you
can-
repeat what they say. I
that's-
think spirits do the same thing.
But that's my proof or evidence
Yeah.
that I guess that these things can respond instantaneously. They can respond
Right.
away to what you're saying.
That's very cool. Very cool. All right, that is the Washoe Club in Virginia City.
All right, let's call that an episode then. Anything else, guys?
No, that was good.
Oddities Expo this weekend.
Oh shit,
The Oddities Expo.
Oddities Expo. Yeah, I need to get my ticket still.
This guy.
All right, go see. Don't play that.
Peace out, butterflies.
Going back to Virginia City.
This is the EVP Podcast.